It's just a continuous flow, and the flow very much depends upon one thing: the regard the living entity has towards Krishna. So very smoothly, Krishna can move from dealing with a demon to dealing with the cowherd boys, to dealing with his parents, to dealing with the gopis. And it's all joyful. I mean, think of it, any one of the pastimes. Because we just, on Bahulashtami, at least in honor of Bahulashtami, Krishna just finished killing Arishtasura that was terrifying all of Braja. And the next thing you knew, he's being accused of being sinful. And he has to purify himself. And so back and forth, and he purifies himself. So it's just a non-stop flow of loving exchanges, depending upon who's on the receiving end. How one has regard for Krishna has everything to do with how Krishna responds. And it's very special in Vrindavan amongst his devotees. And so the focus in this pastime goes to, of course, Mother Yasoda and the love of Mother Yasoda. The super excellent love of Mother Yasoda. Okay, well, let's go into the pastime. First, the meaning of Damodar is let's see if quicker works. There we go. There we go. There we go. Dhamma has different meanings, but one of the meanings is ropes. And Udara means the abdomen or the waist. So the name Damodara comes from Mother Yasoda binding Krishna about the waist with some ropes, Damodara. And there's another word here, sthana, and that's mentioning sthana because you're going to see the place, these photographs of the place, because I'm anticipating going to Vrindavan, including to the place where the Damodar Lila occurred. Now let's step back a little bit from the pastime itself and consider the significance of the holy Dham of Vrindavan in a broader sense. So significance, I could ask for significance, but I'll volunteer some. In the residents of Vrindavan do not regard Krishna as the supreme person. They regard him not in that munificence and the Aishvarya feature, but the Madhurya feature, according to different moods of relationships. And even in those categories, there's subcategories and subcategories of those subcategories. And Rupa Goswami really gets into it, describing the different categories. And why should there be different categories? Because variety, Prabhupada's phrase, variety is the mother of enjoyment. So mothers, by nature, mothers have offspring, children. So the mother of enjoyment has many offsprings. And so there's varieties and varieties and varieties. So is there, the answer to this question is no. Is there a limit to Krishna's enjoyment? No. And therefore, is there a limit to the variety of enjoyment? No. There can be categories and there's subcategories of those subcategories and further subcategories of those, but it's unlimited. So it's natural that there's going to be varieties. Let's just take cowherd boys. There's so many descriptions of the cowherd boys and different relationships with different categories of cowherd boys. Some of this age, some of this nature, some this, some that. Because Krishna is full. Or say it differently, within Krishna is everything. Say it negatively. Is there something that's not within Krishna? There's something that exists that's not within Krishna? Everything that exists is within Krishna. So when all varieties in this world must have their spiritual counterpart, and it is there. And the special feature of Vrindavan is there's no sense of his of majesty. Although he shows his opulences freely because of the intensity of sweetness of their love, they see it something else. Sometimes they speculate. We heard yesterday, sometimes after Krishna and Balaram do this and that, the cowherd elders get together and maybe he's a great demigod. And then they forget. Here's an example. I like this example. There's a whole chapter dedicated to Krishna's rescuing Nanda Maharaj from the abode of Varuna. You know that pastime, right? Anybody unfamiliar with that pastime? Okay, so you're familiar. He didn't violate anything, but an assistant or a servant of Varuna thought he did. He took his bath to break the fast at the wrong time. So he kidnapped him and took him to the abode of Varuna. He was wading into the river Jamuna to take his morning bath before breaking the fast. He just disappeared. So those that were with him on the shore of the river Jamuna, they didn't see where he went, but they didn't see him anymore. So they began crying. These are elders in Vrindavan, being with Nanda to celebrate breaking of the Ekadasi fast on the Dwadasi morning. And hearing the cries, Krishna came, they said what happened, Krishna knew what to do, etc. Krishna went to the abode of Varuna. Now, how do you get from the river Jamuna to the abode of Varuna? There's higher dimensional space. That's Sariputa's explanation. Krishna knew how to transport himself through different dimensions and go to where Varuna's abode was. And there was Varuna, and there was Nanda Maharaj. And the whole scene where Varuna immediately recognized Krishna. He is a demigod. He's very, very opulent. The abode, later it's described. When Nanda came back, they described, let me tell you what happened. The opulence of Varuna's abode is like this. Wow. Now the Aishvarya, the opulence of the demigod's abode. And he got off his throne and he worshiped my son. I saw it. This and that and the other thing. And Krishna just asked, please return Nanda Maharaj so I can take him back to Vrindavan. And immediately it was done. And this is what I experienced. This is when Nanda got back. And so they started having a village elder discussion about who is this boy anyways? You know the pastime. So one of the things they considered is maybe he is some kind of divinity. And if he's some kind of divinity, maybe he would show us his transcendental abode. They didn't say anything to Krishna, but he's omniscient. He's in their heart. So knowing they were just curious. They didn't go and ask him, can you show us? They just thought they had a desire, Icha. And Krishna reciprocated very well. So he went to the very same place where later, Krishna showed Akrura, the spiritual world. There's details. He went to the very same place. It's called Hrada, means a lake. So he went to that lake. He took bath, they took bath, and then Krishna lifted them out. And he lifted them out, doesn't say, how he transported them or something. And then they could see themselves in the eternal abode of Krishna. They didn't see all the other residents of Vrindavan. It's very specific. They saw themselves and they saw Krishna and they saw the personified Vedas offering prayers to Krishna. He revealed that to them. And then what happened? That was all withdrawn. It was like a vision. And next, as Yogamaya covered them, they forgot everything. They forgot everything. They forgot everything. They didn't remember anything because it would interfere with their loving exchange, but they had a desire. So Krishna fulfilled their desire. He showed his Aishvarya, but their love is so intense, it just eclipsed the Aishvarya feature of his position. So that's the nature of Vrindavan, the significance of the holy Dham of Vrindavan. It's very, very strong in the sweetness feature, so strong. When Krishna shows opulence, it doesn't register. They see it some other way. Somehow they see some other way. Here's a statement by Jiva Goswami in his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where he speaks of the very first verse. Some of you are familiar with Nectar Devotion. It describes sadhana bhakti. And in Rupa Goswami's writing on Raga Nuga Bhakti, the very first verse, he explains the importance of residing in Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami's commentary reads, if possible, one should live physically in the places where Krishna lived, such as Vrindavan. If one cannot do so, then the person should live there mentally. So Singapore isn't Vrindavan. Somehow I figured that one out. Nice place, but it's not Vrindavan. So if we don't live in Vrindavan, and we can visit in Vrindavan, but the recommendation is, if possible, live there. If it's not possible to live there, then mentally. So one of the ways to mentally reside there, and this is it's a doorway to enter into spontaneous devotion from the sadhana to the raganuga stage. Mentally reside there. That's how important it is. And during this month of Kartik, specifically in Vrindavan, it's very, very special. There's large sections of Hari Bhakti Vilas. Hari Bhakti Vilas is like a how-to manual. How to do A to Z. How to do A to Z for a Vaishnava with scriptural references and details and details and details. So many details. So how to observe Kartik, the importance of it, and how to observe it. And going through that section of Hari Bhakti Vilas, abundantly, there's reference of offering a lamp. Not only the Damodar lamp, but offering a lamp to Vishnu. And there's examples and examples and examples and examples. And then back to the principle and then examples and examples. So what's the big deal about offering a lamp? I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's a big deal. How significant is a lamp? Or like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, we all know the verse, Patram, Pushpam, Palam, Toyam, Yome Bhaktya Prayachati. And so there's nothing significant about a leaf or a flower or some water. So it's the love and devotion. So it's not just waving a lamp, but it's the offering of a lamp. It's the giving of one's heart to the Supreme Lord. And as far as I know, I'm going to be offering, yesterday we offered 3 lamps. Today is probably going to also be 3 lamps offered to Damodar. But it's not just numerical, although there's very nice description. I've been too busy. I meant to write to Madhavananda. Some of you know who Madhavananda is. the Gogovinda Maharaj disciple that lives in Puri. He publishes a magazine, a Bindu magazine, Madhavananda. And in the recent Bindu magazine, there's a whole article, long article, that I extracted that gives 3 very prominent examples from different scriptures about how important it is to offer a lamp. Not having nothing to do with the Damodar Lila, but offering a lamp to Vishnu. It's really, Madhavananda is really good at finding remote things in scripture. Padma Purana here, and something there, and something there. So my point is, as Hari Bhakti Vilas tells us, offering a lamp is one of the main beneficial duties of a worshipper of the Supreme Lord. And we find this Sri Satyavrata Muni Damodarastaka that we sing for a month, 28 days during the month of Kartik, offering a lamp, singing this nice song. Here's a little background. Its references, Satyavrata Muni is speaking to Narada Muni and Shonaka Rishi. So that gives us a little bit of the chronology, because when was Shonaka Rishi around? Around the time of the composition of Srimad Bhagavatam. So around the time of Krishna's presence on earth. And Satyavrata Muni spoke these Ashtaka, these 8 verses. And Sanatana Goswami, in his commentary on this Ashtaka, says that this prayer is Nitya Siddha, the prayer itself, just like Krishna is Nitya Siddha, and the eternal associates of Krishna are Nitya Siddha. This prayer, the Ashtaka, is a Nitya Siddha, eternally perfect prayer that manifested through Satyavrata Muni, and that it is actually capable of attracting Damodar. So of course, sound vibration alone is nice, but that it's not sufficient. The consciousness behind the sound vibration is what's especially important. And he writes, this is Sanatana Goswami writes in Hari Bhakti Vilas, anyone who recites or even hears this prayer, especially in the month of Kartik, will attract the eternal shelter of devotional service at the lotus feet of Sri Damodar. So keep singing it, Prabhus. And with the intention that Lord Damodar will be attracted and give you his eternal shelter. Here's something about offering lamps from Skanda Purana and the importance of this Kartik month. Just as there's no yuga equal to Satya Yuga, no scripture equal to the Vedas, and no place of pilgrimage equal to the Ganges, so there's no month equal to Kartik, the most dear to Lord Krishna. This is from Kartika Mahatmya, drawn from scripture, but gathered by Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. They both wrote such literature. In Hari Bhakti Vilas and their Mathura Mahatmya, etc., etc. There's so many. So I decided not to make so many in this presentation, just to make reference. This month is a very special month, and offering a lamp is a very special activity during this month. And singing this Nitya Siddha song manifest through Satyavrata Muni is also very special. Here's a detail I found interesting. One of Radharani's names is Kartika, because one of the names of his mother, who we normally know as Kirtida, is also Kirtika, Kirtika with 2 T's. Thus Radharani, being the daughter of Kirtika, became Kartika, which means born of Kritika. So this is Radharani's month. Rupa Goswami specifically in his writings, rather than saying Radharani or Radha or Vrishabhanu Nandini, speaks of her as Kartika Devi. We find in Nectar Devotion, this is just some glories. There's many more. There's 64 recommended items. One of those 64 items is honoring Kartik. So we're honoring Kartik in our own way. And Adi Varaha Purana, one of those many references. O Earth Goddess, 60 billion sacred places reside in my Mathura. This is Mathura Mahatmya. Writings or gatherings of references by both Rupa and Sanatan. So when we say Mathura, it can mean, commonly it means, in scripture it commonly means Mathura district. Today, we make a differentiation between Mathura and Vrindavan, but Mathura meant Mathura district, which includes Vrindavan. And now, in a more contemporary way, primarily because of the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, the six Goswamis, etc., Vrindavan takes its special prominence, part of Mathura district. So let's visit the Damodar Lila Stan. That's what it looks like from the outside, complete with motorcycle. This photograph was taken about 5 days ago. And of course, nice posters, etc., etc. And when you go inside, it's not fancy. There, to the left side, as you walk in, there's a place where the Damodar Lila is supposed to have happened. And over on the right side is the Utkal, at least, pieces of stone that the persons who reside there say this is the wood and mortar that somehow became stone, whatever, how you say that, over a period of time. And the Damodar Lila took place on Diwali Day, right? Yeah, today's Diwali Day. That's why we're speaking about Damodar Lila, because it's Diwali Day. And it's a very sweet pastime. And there's many, many things to say about it, but I'll just say a few things. Jiva Goswami especially likes this pastime. So he explains that Mother Yasoda on Diwali Day, she began to consider. I hear from my neighbors all this complaint that Krishna is going and stealing butter from their storerooms. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Because do you know how much butter Nanda Maharaj has? He has 900,000 cows. There's no shortage of butter. Why would he go to somebody's storeroom to steal butter? So then she considered, Jiva Goswami says, it must be, if it's true, that it must be that the maidservants that make butter don't know how to make butter properly. Today is Diwali. I'll just have them go home to be with their families, and I'll make Krishna's butter today. So off they went on Diwali Day. And I like this painting. I don't know if anybody here has made butter from a butter churn. Some of you have. I have. We did this once in New York Temple. Somebody got the bright idea that we got several dozen clay pots that could be used for butter churning, and paddles that would stick inside those butter pots with a churning rod. And then you have to have somebody, a rope or something, hold the rod so it would stay upright, and slosh the yogurt back and forth and back and forth. It was at that time that I learned from firsthand experience, but yogurt makes better butter. Not just churning milk to make butter, but somehow that the science of butter is yogurt makes better butter. So you put the yogurt in the pot, and the paddle goes in with the yogurt, and the churning rod is vertical. And so the turning rod is held in its position by, you see in this painting at least, there's two, the upper and lower, holding it in position. And then Mother Yasoda, wrapping a rope around the churning rod, moves the churning rod back and forth. When Mother Yasoda was churning butter, she wasn't just busy. She was doing what Mother Yasoda likes to do, singing songs of glorification of Krishna. So we commonly, those of us that are not on the platform of Raganuga Bhakti, we learn standard songs and we sing those standard songs. Or we recite the poetry of Vaishnava poets. And it's, it's realized sound vibration. But Mother Yasoda didn't need a songbook. She just would spontaneously sing Krishna's pastimes. And as she was churning, this is Dina Bandhu, she had bangles on her wrist. And as she was churning, the movement of the bangles on her wrist made sound like kartals. Ching, ching, ching. And the sound of the paddles in the butter pot made sounds like a drum. Boom, 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 ching, 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 boom, boom. She was a one-man band. And she was absorbed. She was completely absorbed. Now, before she began, this is now Jiva Goswami's explanation. She's a connoisseur, just like she knew how to make cooking and baking and things. She knew which types of grass given to which cows produced which flavor of milk. So she very carefully fed selected cows, according to Jiva Goswami. 10,000 cows were selected by Mother Yasoda to be fed special grass. Then she personally arranged for the 10,000 cows to be milked, and milk from those 10,000 cows, along with other special grass, was given to 1,000 special cows. That's two specials, because it keeps getting a bit more special. And milk those 1,000 cows, and milk from those 1,000 cows, plus some special grass, was given to 100 cows. They were milked, and their milk was given to 10 more specials. Cows. And the milk from those special cows was what she used to make yogurt to put into the butter pot to make butter. Singing nice songs of Krishna. She wanted the very best. She wanted these rumors of Krishna stealing butter to be stopped. And she wanted Krishna to be pleased. So as that continued, we know before she began churning, she put Krishna to rest. But sure enough, Krishna woke up. And when Krishna woke up, he went toddling to the side of Mother Yasoda and just looked at her. This is beautiful painting. I'll read and then explain. Dressed in a saffron yellow sari, with a belt tied about her full hips, Mother Yashoda pulled on the churning rope, laboring considerably, her bangles and earrings moving and vibrating, and her whole body shaking. Now, this passage from Srimad Bhagavatam, Rupa Goswami points to in his description of Raganuga Bhakti. I'm going to wait till we get all settled because this is an important point. What does Raganuga Bhakti mean? Raganuga Bhakti means spontaneous devotional service that awakens from nicely performed regulative devotional service, or sadhana bhakti. So we're sadhakas. We're trying to become sadhakas, that we do regulated activities of worship and offering and things, or chanting and regulated service. The natural consequence of regulated service is mode of goodness becomes more prominent. The modes of ignorance and passion become diminished, and one's attraction for Krishna grows. The light gets brighter the darkness gets just diminished by the bright light. And then, if we're following Rupa Goswami's teachings nicely, an attraction for spontaneous service will awaken. If we're doing our sadhana bhakti nicely, that will happen. And this description that you see on the screen, plus the nice painting by this artist couple that painted these paintings, it's the term that's used in Rupa Goswami's writings is udipan. Udipan means stimulation. So those who wish to and have a natural attraction for parental affection like Mother Jasoda, it's part of the practice of Raganuga sadhana bhakti is to meditate on the descriptions like this: how Mother Jasoda is dressed, the flowers in her hair, the beads of perspiration on her forehead, the movements of her arms and the bangles on her arms and all these things. These are natural, spiritual stimulations of ecstatic love in the mood of Mother Jasoda or the mood of parental affection. So she smiled, Krishna came, and she understood what he wanted, but she was busy making butter. So he didn't wait. He just reached his hand out and grabbed the churning rod. And she knew what that meant. It's time to stop churning butter. I want you to feed me. And she was very happy, churning butter, feeding Krishna, whatever. And so, beautiful description in the Bhagavatam, where she did what mothers will sometimes do. She had her son straddle her legs in the middle and put her arms behind his back. And she looked at him and he looked at her and they both smiled. And when Mother Jasoda smiled, Krishna smiled, showing his little teeth. And when she saw Krishna's little teeth, she smiled even more. It was just like this endless ecstasy between mother and child. But this is transcendental love, where there's nothing on the material side in this exchange. And then she began feeding him because that's what he wanted. Now you notice in the painting on the far right, you'll see a pot of milk. Because before she began churning the butter from the yogurt in the churning pot, she put some milk on the stove because she wanted to make some milk sweets for Krishna. And she noticed out of the corner of her eye, on the stove, the milk was boiling over. Now, I discussed this yesterday evening with the Bengali group. The place was packed last night. I don't know how many. How would you estimate how many were there? A couple hundred, 300? 300. The place was packed. So I'm repeating some of the things that I said yesterday, but Jiva Goswami described it this way: the milk was thinking suicide thoughts. He describes that everything in the spiritual world is conscious, including milk. And the milk was thinking, what is the use of my life? Now that Krishna is on the lap of Mother Jasoda, he's not going to want me. He wants the milk of Mother Jasoda. And what's the use? What service is there for me? I'm just going to jump out of the pot and into the fire and give up my life. Jiva Goswami. Now there are other acharyas that write or express something similar. Then the Mother Jasoda, she's in the platform of spontaneous bhakti, but she also uses her rational faculty. We'll mention it 3 times. Because we all also have to use our reasoning faculty when serving Krishna. Sometimes we find there's 2 things that are needed, and you can't do them both at the same time. So you have to choose between one thing first and the other thing second. So you use your rational faculty to decide. Common sense, you can say. So her common sense said, if the milk boils over, then it's spoiled. If I leave the milk boiling over, that's not good because it's also for Krishna. And feeding Krishna, that can wait. I can just put Krishna to the side, come back, and after the milk is saved, I can continue feeding Krishna. So she set Krishna down with good intention. Serving Krishna was her intention, serving Krishna favorably. And there's a detail that's described by our acharyas that says what she did to save the rescue of the milk, she knew what to do. And I've had experience working in a kitchen where I didn't know what to do because I wasn't educated like Mother Yasoda. She just took a few drops of water and sprinkled a few drops of water on top of the pot of milk, and the milk went down. I would go grab the pot of milk and it'd all go all over the place. But she, little bit of water, and the milk subsided. And as soon as the milk was safe, then she went back to feed Krishna. But when she went back to feed Krishna, Krishna wasn't there. Instead of Krishna being there, what was there? The broken butter pot. And the butter pot was full, so now there's butter and yogurt smeared all over the floor. And she saw three things, and she used her rational faculty to understand what happened. She didn't see it happen. She was deductive logic. So if you're a spontaneous devotee like Mother Yasoda, it's okay. You can use deductive logic. She saw a broken butter pot. She saw the rock that broke the broken butter pot, and she saw the yogurt and butter smeared all over the place. So she concluded this must have been Krishna's work. And she smiled. And when she smiled, there's Mother Yasoda taking the milk off the stove. There's Krishna stealing the butter. When Krishna saw Mother Yasoda coming back, he ran. In fear of Mother Yasoda, he who was feared by fear personified was afraid of Mother Yasoda because she's stealing, and he knows she doesn't like that. So when she came back, she saw what she saw, but you look closely at this painting, and there's little footsteps of little baby Krishna because yogurt smeared, butter and yogurt smeared in the bottom of his feet. So she followed the marks of his feet and followed him exactly to the right place, the storeroom of Nanda Maharaj, where he was very busy stealing more butter and feeding the monkeys in the celebrated pastime of Makhanchor. And I like this particular painting because I've never seen monkeys saying please. And Mother Yasoda with the little stick in her hand, in her left hand, see? Little stick. This is Dina Bandhu, I learned. Not a stick. The stick for controlling cows is big, thick stick. The stick that she had in her hand is called a lati, and it's a little skinny stick. It's just like shaking your finger. It's not for whacking somebody. But when Krishna saw the stick in Mother Yasoda's hand, and she began chasing him. First, here's many hundreds of nice paintings of Krishna in his activity of stealing butter, looking out of the corner of his eye, looking this way, looking that way. And when she saw him coming, when he saw her coming, he ran. And this is part of our Damodar Astaka song. He ran in fear of Mother Yasoda. And as he ran and ran, we know from Ishopanishad, he can overcome all others running. I mentioned this yesterday. One of the pastimes where he overcame Kalyavana. Kalyavana was a powerful Kshatriya. And when Krishna came on the battlefield after situating all the residents of the Yadu dynasty in Dwaraka, he came back. And Kalyavana saw him. So he figured out that's Krishna. Krishna saw him. Krishna started running. But Krishna ran just fast enough so that Kalyavana would keep chasing him but couldn't catch him. So Kalyavana tried running faster. Krishna ran a little faster, looking over his shoulder. Now Krishna did look over his shoulder at Mother Yasoda specifically. because he was afraid. But when she caught him from behind, which was only possible by his allowing her, he began to cry. As you see, the painting is according to the Lila. It's in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj's palace. He's running, running, running. She caught him. And when she caught him, being a mother, she scolded him and said two things. I don't mind that you're taking butter because we have so many cows and you like butter and that's fine. But you're stealing. And I can't let you steal. Because when you grow up, if you steal now and I don't do anything, when you grow up, then what's it going to be? So I have to discipline you. It's not stealing, is not okay. And so as a punishment, which at that time was a standard type of punishment, she took some rope and was going to bind Krishna around the waist and tie the other end of the rope to the grinding mortar. And we know what happened. When she got the rope and tried to bind Krishna, it was 2 inches too short. So she used her rational faculty. She got 2 ropes and tied 2 ropes together to tie those ropes around Krishna's waist, and it didn't go around Krishna's waist. In fact, it was still 2 inches too short, the same 2 inches after more rope. Jiva Goswami says, because she's Nanda Maharaj's wife or queen, she had access to all the storerooms of all the cowherds, and she gathered up all the rope and tied all the rope together, and it was still 2 inches too short. But then what rope can bind Krishna? So why, this is the transcendental question, why was it she was unable to bind Krishna? And the answer given by Jiva Goswami is he was exhibiting 2 of his special potencies. Prasha Shaktir Vivadaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriyacha, a verse that Prabhupada quoted so often. The Absolute has unlimited potencies. In that particular verse, it gives 3, but there's actually unlimited potencies. And Jiva Goswami identifies 2 of those unlimited potencies. Satya, Sankalpa Shakti. Sankalpa means determination. You know what Sankalpa means, right? So supposing somebody's a practitioner of karma kanda. They go to a Brahmin and says, can you perform a yajna for me? And my intention from this yajna is, and they state the intention. So the Brahmana knows which mantras to use according to the sankalpa of the person who's approached them. Jiva Goswami describes like this. It's like a jewel box. The treasury of the king has many, many, many jewels. The Vedas are like those jewels. And the Brahmanas, because they're so elevated and so educated, they know exactly which mantras to select for which sankalpa somebody has. Somebody wants whatever they want. They want success in their business, or they want a nice husband for their daughter, or they want something, something, something. They want success in their education or something, something. So there's mantras according to sankalpa. Now Krishna doesn't need mantras. He has his sankalpa shakti, or sometimes it's ichcha shakti. He just desires something, and it becomes reality. Satya sankalpa shakti. Just that's it. He doesn't have to lift a finger. Just his Satya Sankalpa Shakti is invoked and everything flows. So from that Satya Sankalpa Shakti, Jiva Goswami explains there's a second one that is inspired by or invoked by Satya Sankalpa Shakti, and that's his Aishvarya Shakti. It's an opulence. Aishvarya means opulence. Like chapter 10 Bhagavad Gita, opulences of the Absolute. Prabhupada's translation, but it's Vibhuti Yoga, Vibhuti Shakti. Krishna's Vibhuti Shakti was such that the rope didn't get any bigger, but it still wouldn't go around him. It was mystical. And Mother Yasoda is going to comment about it. So here's the text. It says this. And as she was laboring like this, trying to bind Krishna with a rope, there were some ladies, elders in the village that came and watched what she was doing. And they started laughing at her. And they said, don't you understand? It's just not meant to happen. Just accept it. It's not meant to happen. You're getting so much rope and it's not going around Krishna. So just accept it. But she is Mother Yasoda. I have to discipline. If I just let him steal, then it's a big problem. I'm being faulty as a mother. I can't do that. And then she began reflecting on the whole situation this way. I have a rope 100 hastas, 150 feet long. And it doesn't go around my son's waist, it was the size of a fist. And it's not that the rope is getting bigger or smaller, and it's not that his waist is getting bigger or smaller, but it's still not going around his waist. It's very bewildering, very puzzling. And not only that, it's always 2 inches, the same 2 inches, not 4 inches, it's 2 inches. So this is most amazing. She's Mother Yasoda. She's the pure personality of Godhead's mother, bewildered by his own potencies, his Satya Sankalpa and Vibhuti Shaktis. So what does she do? She continues anyways. So what should we do? And we don't over-endeavor, but if we're trying to accomplish something we know is to be done, and it's not happening, like Prabhupada came to America and it wasn't happening, and it wasn't happening, and it wasn't happening, and it wasn't happening. What did he do? He continued. Obstacles, calamities, this and that, he continued. Knowing that Krishna should be pleased, that's all what's important. So he continued. And so she continued. When Krishna saw, this is a very practical lesson within this pastime, Krishna saw the sincerity and the strength and determination of her effort. It's different but similar to Dhruva's determination, that he wanted to get Vishnu's favor so he could get his kingdom. When Narada saw that, wow, this boy is determined. And Vishnu saw how determined he was, and so he came. So Krishna saw how determined Mother Yasoda was, and he decided to withdraw those 2 potencies and exhibit a different one. That's all it took. So the potency that he exhibited was his Kripa Shakti. And from her side, she was exhibiting, according to what Jiva Goswami's language is, parishrama. She was making some very sincere endeavor. And that's our bhakti process in a nutshell. From our side, sincere endeavor. We're not creators of outcome. We're servants. We make sincere endeavor according to our capacity. Not over endeavor, but a sincere endeavor according to our capacity. And dependent all the while for Krishna's mercy. So that combination made it possible for Mother Yasoda to bind Krishna. The rope didn't get bigger or smaller. It was the same rope, the same endeavor, the same everything. But then it went around Krishna. Here's the explanation. Nice painting. And the appearance of Krishna's mercy made his Satya Sankalpa and Vibhuti Shaktis immediately disappear. The distance of 2 fingers was filled by the devotee's effort, parishrama, and the Lord's causeless mercy, Krishna Kripa. Another nice painting. Here she's binding Krishna. Jiva Goswami writes, the Bhaktanishta, firm faith of the devotee, seen in their tireless endeavor to serve and worship the Lord, and the Svanishta, the steady quality in the Lord, which brings forth his mercy upon seeing the devotee's effort and fatigue, cause Krishna to be bound. In the absence of these two, the rope will remain 2 fingers too short. But when Bhakti Nishta and Svanishta are present, the Lord can be bound. In this pastime, Krishna showed Yashoda and the whole world that only love can bind him. So that's one of the offerings that was made at the beginning, especially the special feature of this pastime, the Damodar Lila, is the love of Mother Yashoda is sufficiently strong to bind Krishna. And of course, there's many, many, many nice paintings of this very wonderful Lila. Now, I noticed the young Mataji who was singing the kirtan, you sang Yasoda Damodar at the end, because it's Yasoda Damodar. So it's Yasoda Damodar Lila. Is there such a thing as a Radha Damodar Lila? We're going to end with this. The answer is yes. And there's 4 references I'm going to point to. Jiva Goswami is the forefront. He writes in his Priti Sandarbha about the pastime of Radha binding Krishna. I'll read it because it's so sweet. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10:32-6 is described another kind of gopi, a gopi who thinks Krishna is mine. This possessiveness is a key terminology used by our Goswamis to define the type of love in Vrindavan. It's not the material kind of possessiveness, it's its transcendental kind of possessiveness. This gopi is also situated in the midst of the gopis. Her position is very rare and exalted. She has a special kind of love for Lord Krishna, thinking, again, Krishna is my property. She stares at him with frowning glances and enjoys other pastimes with him. This particular gopi is Sri Radha. Her exalted position is described in these words, describing the month of Kartik in the Vraja Ratnakara Drita part of Bhavishya Purana. So the reference is Bhavishya Purana. That evening, Lord Krishna went to Radha's home. Angry, she bound his waist with her own sash. Telling her about a great festival at his home, Lord Krishna pacified his beloved Radha and she set him free. Bhavishya Purana. The reference to this is made by each of the other acharyas. It's not in the Bhagavatam, but they're making reference to it. This is from another book written by Jiva Goswami, and it's longer, but it's the same Bhavishya Purana reference. In Goloka Vrindavan, Lord Krishna eternally assumes a youthful form. In this form, he enjoys in various ways along with his beloved Srimati Radhika. Once, during the Kartik month, he stayed home to celebrate the festival arranged by Purnamasi. It's Diwali festival at his home, organized by Purnamasi or overseen by Purnamasi. Due to the festivities that day, he arrived late at night to meet Srimati Radhika. In a state of anger, she tied him up using her waistband as a rope. Krishna then narrated everything that had taken place at his home that caused the delay. The story appeased her, after which Krishna said to her, "O slender-waisted Radhika, I am most satisfied by this action of you in binding me lovingly by your waistband. O beautiful lady, this name of mine, Damodar, has now become dearer to me. In this world of mine, no other name is as dear to me as this name. By chanting this name, one will always have children. In case you wanted children, I better not chant that name. And will attain all perfection along with the rarest form of devotional service. One will also be able to stay eternally in my abode by chanting these names. In the near future, so this is the childhood pastime before the Yasoda Damodar pastime. In the near future, when Mother Yashoda will bind me to the mortar, this name of mine will be manifest in the material world. In this month of Kartik, one who worships me with you, according to the rules and of the scriptures, will attain the fulfillment of all desires. So nice. That's Radharani binding Krishna, Radha Damodar. And very similar, I don't think I'm going to Krishna Karnamrita, a book by Krishna Das Kaviraj, the same as the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Sanskrit instead of Bengali, but it's the same reference source, Bhavishotara Purana. It says essentially the same. And Bhakti Siddhanta, this last phrase at the bottom, he narrates a similar pastime, except it's not the waistband, but it's a ribbon from her hair, Radharani's hair. So that's Radha Damodar. And here's Radha Damodar, the deity that Jiva Goswami worshipped, that's presently in Jaipur. But it's hard to get a good photo. I've tried and tried and tried. This one came from Bhakti Chaitanya Swami. There he is, 8 inches tall. And according to the history, the deity was carved by Rupa Goswami's own hand and given to his disciple, Jiva Goswami, to worship. The marble came from a mountain in South India, Vindhya Parvat, and 8 inches tall. Very attractive form of the deity. Here's another photo of the same deity. When you go to that temple, the Radha Damodar temple in Jaipur, you have to look carefully. It's not on the main altar, it's on the side, on the left side. It's a special little altar. And the central altar in Vrindavan, this is the Pratibhu deity of the Radha Damodar deity that's there in Vrindavan town. And last slide is, this is the Radha Damodar of the celebrated Radha Damodar bus program. Some of you may have heard that from Lilamrita or other places. Worshipped by Vishnu Jan Swami, very merciful deities, very beautiful deities. Every day they were going out into the public. I remember one time we were in Harlem. Does that mean anything to you people here in Singapore? Harlem? Doesn't mean anything, right? Harlem is like the pits of the black neighborhoods in Upper Manhattan. So Vishnu Jan Swami had the deities on a palanquin, Radha Damodar on a palanquin, on the sidewalk, on a palanquin, and we're having kirtan on 125th Street in Manhattan. I was like, wow, Radha Damodar are really merciful. And now they're being, in so many other places, in colleges and so many other places, but everywhere, all around town, all around the country, being worshipped in bus by a very loving devotee. So now they're in a farm community in Pennsylvania, the Gita Nagari farm. So that's it for the Damodar Lila. I'm looking forward to visiting the actual place in Vrindavan. I won't be able to show all these pictures because we're just going to be with a group of people out there. So you'll get the advantage of seeing all these nice pictures. But we'll be narrating the Katha. Let's see if there's some discussion. I see your hand. Let's see if there's some other people besides. Yeah.
All right. In ISKCON Boston Temple, I don't remember the name of the devotee, but I heard him speak on the Damodar Lila, and he said Mother Yashoda was endeavoring to tie the rope around Krishna, and finally she got the ribbon from the hair of Radharani, and when she tied that to the rope, is that bona fide?
It's kind of like a mix. You know, people that recite Katha, you know, little salt, little pepper, little camphor, a little this, a little that, stir. So you know, it's not part of the Katha, but it's okay. And I'm referring to our acharyas and what they wrote, and it's very clear what they wrote. So, yes.
Why did we traveling and then he got bounded by Radharani and she died so
It's a different Leela. I mean, one can say many things, but it's simply a different Leela. One could say, strongly, Radharani didn't have the problem that Mother Jasoda had. So that makes Radharani more exalted than Mother Jasoda because she didn't have a problem. And one could say like that. That's sweet. At the same time, one of the comments made earlier is Krishna has plans in his Leela to demonstrate his Leela, increase the intensity of love of his devotees by making some obstacle and then removing the obstacle. Or Krishna may have some intention of teaching us a lesson, or there may be so many. And if this is right, it's not that can't be right. It can be multiple things, multiple views on transcendental purposes of Krishna. I was just viewing a 2-year-old class that Hari Parshad gave, covering Hari Suri's commentary, and his end of his commentary of this Leela is, it's very clear that there isn't anyone in Vrindavan that has the love like Mother Jasoda. It's the most exalted love of Mother Jasoda. So if there's obstacles, that doesn't mean they're lesser. Look at Prabhupada. Look at the obstacles he faced. Doesn't mean he was lesser because there was obstacles. And only when there's no obstacles does that mean there's greater. It's how the obstacles are addressed shows the greatness of a person.
In the chapter 10 of the Bhagavatam, the relevance of
chapter 10 or canto 10?
Canto 10, chapter 10.
Okay, 10. Okay.
In Canto, the chapter 10, Maharaj, is the relevance of Dalkuver and Manigrave. Now, he speaks a lot of philosophy. It is very, very powerful. So I know we don't emphasize on that, but he speaks a lot of
realizations.
Strong, philosophy. So I mean, I've heard many classes. I know we are talking about street leader, but the very important instructions which he gives. Why some of these are not mentioned in some of Just a curiosity.
Your curiosity is, why don't we speak about these wonderful philosophy points made by Nalakuvera or Manigriva when it's such an important part of the Leela? Is that your question? That's a nice question. And what one answer, there's different, not one right answer, but one answer is this: the emphasis of this Leela is, as was already expressed before we began describing the Leela, how Krishna is controlled by the love of his devotee, like Mother Yasoda's love for Krishna. That love is stronger than Krishna, or Krishna submits to that love of his devotee. And that's the special part of this Leela. It doesn't mean that, the philosophy spoken is, secondary, but it's the special significance of the Leela. It's in this song, for example, not, what the philosophy spoken by Nalakuvera and Manigriva. So our attention goes there because of the sweetness of that feature of Krishna being controlled by the love of his devotee. That's one answer. And I have presentation on the second half, but we don't have time. It takes so long to cover this nicely. That's another, practical explanation. There's other sections in the Bhagavatam where, here's another example. Another example is Muchukunda. He's a hero. I mean, he's a hero like Rukmini is a hero. Because Rukmini, she just heard about Krishna and she gave her everything to Krishna. And Muchukunda heard about Krishna and he gave his everything to Krishna. And when Krishna came into Krishna's cave, Krishna came into his cave and he cindered Kalyavana, he didn't even recognize Krishna. Who are you? You're effulgent. There must be something. Who are you at this or you at that? Or, please explain. And Krishna very, very directly said who he was. And I've come before you, so please accept any benediction you'd like from me, because I know you're my very dear devotee. And what he expresses is really wonderful. I like what he expresses. So it doesn't get so much attention. His delivering Kalyavana gets a lot of attention. Yes, you've been enthusiastically waiting. Patiently and enthusiasm. It's a good combination. There are people in the back of the room. You can speak loud, right?
So you beautifully mentioned this point of the gopis telling Yashoda that don't you see that it's not meant to happen?
Not meant to happen. Just accept it.
So then you connected that to Prabhupada's trying, in the West. At the same time, I've read in Pujan Prabhu's book, My Glorious Master, that he gives one example where he lost his passport and he was about to leave for a flight with Prabhupada. And then he says, I was frantically searching, but at one point I decided that I should stop because it will come only when it has to come. So, I mean, that I just remembered that and I was trying to understand, Maharaj, I wanted to ask you, so where do we, so this line between prayas and, this continuing to endeavor? How do we...
It's a natural and a practical question. And one answer is it depends. What does it depend on? It depends on so many things. Depends on variables. Or another way of answering your question is Prabhupada's answer of the distinction between an appropriate endeavor and over endeavor. I mean, where's the line between appropriate and over endeavor? And his standard way of describing is to achieve something material when your endeavor becomes such that your Krishna consciousness and your devotional practice, etc., become compromised. You put those to the side in favor of the over endeavor side. That's the drawing line. Then there's a third one. The ISKCON classic is Srila Prabhupada indicating that he wanted Chaitanya Charitamrita to be produced in an impossible period of time. You're familiar with that chapter of history. But he wanted it, and so it was possible. He wanted it. He was firm, demanded it, wasn't negotiable. And so to do it, in fact, people compromised their sadhana because he wanted it, but that's overrides what's normal, or the normal criterion, an order. So with that order, then there was protection. But other than the exceptional order like that, that's a standard. You don't compromise your core sadhana practices in order to achieve something that's of this world, something material. That's a simple answer. You want to add something to it?
Another sloka of Jiva Goswami you showed, and Krishna saying that by reciting this Damodar, the word Damodar, you will have children. So I was like a bit surprised to see that for the first time. What's the correct?
You have to ask him. There are benedictions that have to do with something that commonly what people of this world want. So those who are of this world and want something of this world, that will be fulfilled also. But supposing there are persons that say, wait a minute, I want to get on the other side of my worldly wants. That's also a want that will be fulfilled. There are a number, not unlimited, but there's a number of such benediction statements, the Palastuti statements at the end of a narration in the Bhagavatam. Because it's for everybody. And part of everybody is people that want something, this or that in the material world. Now that's not the highest platform of bhakti, but some people do bhakti because they want higher things and they also want lesser things. So they're encouraged as well. Yes. Krishna says what? Masuchaha. Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, that one?
Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that out of all the months, he's the month of December.
Okay, that one. Yeah. You want to know the meaning? What do you want to know? He likes the month of Damodar. He likes the Kartik month. So you want to know why? Why does he like that month? What's your question?
But she's asking in the Bhagavad Gita if Krishna says he's the month of December, but he likes the month of Kartik. Why did he say he's the month?
That's the question?
Yeah.
He can like 2 months. That's okay. I like spring. You like spring? No.
There's no spring in India.
Only summer.
Oh, only summer.
Summer.
Depends on where you are, whether you like summer or not. Summer in Vrindavan is they let school out. It's roasting. Anyway, he can like more than 1 month. You had something way at the very beginning. Did that get addressed already?
No, Maharaj. I had two questions. One, Mataji asked whether Radharani had difficulty tying. The question I had, Maharaj, you mentioned at the start that whatever we have, there's a spiritual counterpart. Right, Maharaj? I heard from Devakinathan's proposed lecture a few times. There is only one thing that is not present in the spiritual world. This is the envy. Envy. So, so according to your explanation, envy could also be in the spiritual world, if that's how it's explicitly.
I better have a conversation with Devaki before I answer your question. No, the spiritual counterpart is without envy, but it looks like envy. Or you say it the other way. The envy of this world may look like what's there. Here's a nice example. Who is Chandravali's father? Chandravali is a competitor with Radharani. Who is Chandravali's father? Chandrabhanu. And Chandrabhanu is one of the brothers of Radharani's father, Rishabhanu. Rishabhanu is the elder of 5 brothers. Chandrabhanu is one of the brothers. So that means Radha and Chandravali are cousins, but they have rivalry. But what's that rivalry? It's not envy, or from our perspective, it looks like envy, but it's not. But there's competition. So where there's competition without envy, that's where envy of this world comes from, because in this world there's competition with envy. Now, I don't know what Devaki said, that Devaki said is contradictory to what I just said. That what I said is, whatever exists in this world has its spiritual counterpart. Say it in verse. There isn't something here that does not have its spiritual counterpart. There's nothing here that exists that does not have its spiritual counterpart. So what's the spiritual counterpart of envy that we find here? It's the competition amongst the devotees of Krishna. Who will please Krishna most? But it's not envy. If someone pleases Krishna more, then it gives encouragement to the one who sees, oh, they're serving Krishna, pleasing Krishna is so nice. Let me see what I can do to please Krishna. But it's not there's no material kind of envy. It's a transcendental kind of competition. The spiritual counterpart is there. So next time you see Devaki, you can ask him,
Sure.
how does that work?
Sure.
Okay. Are we done? You have something.
So Maharaj, we have Vrindavan in this world, and we have Vrindavan in the spiritual world also.
Mm.
So the pastimes we have seen in this Vrindavan, there are demons, and we have heard that in the spiritual realm, the Vrindavan, there are no demons. So my question is, so can we say that whatever we are hearing about the pastimes of this Vrindavan, minus all those demons, are the pastimes that are happening in the spiritual world?
So you're asking the same question. He was asking in a different way. You used to have a clever way of asking it. Well, there's several answers to this question. One of those several answers is, while there is no demons, there's a bhava, as if there's a demon. The bhava manifestation is there, although the physical manifestation is not there. The Bhava manifestation means, oh, here comes Aristasura, look out. And there's no Aristasura. But they all go, Krishna, protect us. You follow? The Bhava presence, not the physical presence. And second, it's related, is your question is addressed by Shivaram Maharaj in his writing, Krishna Sangati, where he says, this Acharya says no demons, that Acharya says there's demons. So one approach is, if this is right, then that's wrong. If that's right, then this is wrong. Or a third approach is, they're both right and how to reconcile. And then he goes down the path of how to reconcile. And how in short, there's details. But when Krishna wants some obstacle, he manifests the obstacle. And then he removes the obstacle and the obstacle's gone. So they're not eternally present, but for purposes of pastimes in Goloka, for creating an obstacle and creating a sense similar to this Bhava explanation, that to create a feeling amongst the residents of Vrindavan of here's an obstacle, here's danger, and take deeper shelter of Krishna, although they're already in the deepest possible shelter of Krishna position. It intensifies that. And Krishna gets that which is within him, the chivalry tendency to have some combat. And so he manifests, and then it disappears. Now that may sound like, well, wait a minute. One could place an argument. Everything in the spiritual world is eternal. So how do you have something temporary in the realm that's eternal? There's potencies of Krishna. That's where this Bhava expansion or Bhava manifestation comes in. It's part of Krishna's potencies, and his potencies are without limit. And even in the spirit, even like the Satya Sankalpa and Vibhuta Shaktis, they're his Shaktis, and he can manifest them, withdraw them, no problem. For his pleasure. And his pleasure manifests differently here, and it manifests differently there, but it's all about Krishna's pleasure. If you want to learn more about the response, the Shiva Maharaj's response, you can look it up in this Krishna Sangati. It's a not a really long section, it's not a really short section. It's very philosophical. But within Krishna, everything is possible. Say it negatively, there isn't something that's not possible. And if it's possible and Krishna wants, then it manifests. Even he's okay with it. I think that's it. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
His Holiness Prabhupada Guru Maharaj ki Jai.